If you're watching this video, then like most people, you're probably learning a new language, and like most people, you're probably wondering what the best way to do so is. Well, by clicking on this video, you've taken a step in the right direction because today we're talking about 5 polyglot tricks you can use to learn any language. But before we begin, here's some background about myself. My name's Ian, I'm 23 years old, and I'm an American polyglot who's been learning languages for the better part of the past 7 years. And I currently speak English, Hindi, Russian, Spanish, French, and Italian. And most of those languages I learned within the first 4 years alone. And over the course of the past few years, I've learned a lot about learning languages. And today, I'm happy to share some of that information with you. Many people learn languages all around the world, but not everyone can call themselves a polyglot. And what exactly is a polyglot? A polyglot is somebody who knows and is able to use multiple languages. And that's usually someone who can speak 4, 5, or more languages. And how exactly do they do it? That seems crazy, especially when you consider how much time and effort goes into learning each and every one of these languages. Well, honestly, the secret is they have all the right tools. They know exactly how to go about doing it. And so today, we're going to talk about those very same tricks that polyglots use to learn all these languages. And hopefully, you'll be able to learn just like all the polyglots out there and pick up your language a lot quicker. And so, without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so number 1 on our list is to create immersion. And this goes without saying, but creating immersion is the best way to learn any language. And that is how babies and children learn languages when they're growing up, because they're completely surrounded by it. But that's easier said than done. Not everybody lives in a country where the language they're studying is spoken, and not everyone is able to surround themselves with that language. Well, that's totally fine. I'm going to give you a few ways that you can create immersion no matter where you are. Firstly, if you live in a very diverse country or in a global city, there will be natives of the language that you're learning around the city. The best thing you can do is to befriend these natives or join some kind of a language learning or speaking group where you can come in contact with these natives and speak to them. By doing this, you can create a sense of false immersion, but it works just the same. If you speak to them in their native language and limit the amount of your own language that you use while speaking to them, you will force yourself into a situation where you're completely immersed in the language. And what about if you don't live in a big city, a global city, or in a diverse country where there are natives of the language that you're learning? Well, that's fine too, because we have the power of the internet, where you can meet people from all around the world and use it to your advantage. The internet is by far the biggest tool that we have to learn languages ever. Sure, there are many apps like Duolingo out there that you can use to learn languages, but that doesn't really help immerse you. In order to immerse yourself, you need to come in contact with people, with native speakers who you can speak to on a regular basis. Now, it doesn't matter what app you use to do this, but preferably it's one where you can both text and talk. Because when you don't have time to talk, you can text, but when you have time to talk, you can talk, and you can immerse yourself in the language. I personally, to practice all my language skills, use Discord. I'm sure many of you know what this app is, and if you don't, you can find it on the App Store, on Google Play, and you can join servers where people actively practice these languages. You can chat in the chat rooms, or you can speak to people in actual channels within these servers. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and it requires you to get out of your comfort zone, but if you can do so, you will learn so much quicker, because there's no better way to learn than to immerse yourself and to speak with actual native speakers. Okay, so number 2 on our list is to get connected to and get hooked to the culture. Because learning a language is very exciting, especially at the beginning, but everybody reaches a point where their interest in the language starts to wane, and that's when most people give up. And so it's very important to find what you love about the language and stick to it, because that's the only thing that's going to make sure that you stay consistent. And it sounds cheesy, but consistency is key. The longer you learn a language, the easier it becomes to continue learning and in general. For example, when I was learning Russian, I had a desire to learn the language, but I didn't really have anything to keep me consistent. And so there were many times where I just stopped learning, and then I started back up a couple months later, and then I lost interest again. And the cycle repeated itself over and over and over again, until I finally found something about the language that I loved, which helped me stay consistent, which was the music. I actually got into Russian music, and the more I listened to it, the more I wanted to keep learning, and it made sure that I stayed consistent. So this time, I just kept on learning, I stayed consistent, and now I'm fluent. and I still enjoy Russian music. Number 3 on our list is to do the most with what you know. This, again, is easier said than done, but one of the biggest hurdles people face when learning a new language is getting out of their comfort zone. Most people are afraid to speak in a language because they feel like they don't know enough. They don't know how to express themselves. Well, the biggest mistake you're probably making is trying to express yourself in the language you're learning as if you were speaking your own language. You can't do that, and you probably won't be able to do that for a long time. What you have to do is take what you know and do your best to use those words, those phrases that you do know, to convey the same meaning. It might not sound the best, and you might not sound like you're speaking naturally, but that's okay, because that'll give you confidence, and people will correct you, and you'll start to put things together more consistently. And once you start doing that, your language skills will really start to develop. For example, when I was learning Spanish, I really didn't know a lot of words to begin with, but I became fluent within 1 year of learning Spanish. And that's because I just forced myself to keep on speaking, using the words that I did know. I used the very few vocabulary words I knew in the first month to put together as many crazy sentences as I could to get the meaning across. And all the words I was missing began to fall into place as time went on, and the next thing you know, I was able to express myself the same way I do in English. Number 4 on our list has to do with the third point. It should have probably come before the third point, to be honest, but I'm kind of just winging this as we go. Number 4. Start small. When most people start learning a language, they get really excited. They learn a few words, a few phrases, and they're like, yes, this is it. And they just go all in, they just YOLO it, and they just start trying to learn the biggest, hardest words they can, and just, I don't even know how to explain it. It just sounds ridiculous. Always start small. You have to be real with yourself when learning a language. It takes time. If there is an alphabet that is different from the one that you already know, then start with learning that. Then learn basic greetings, basic questions, etc. And that's going to be the bulk of what you will know for a long time. And then you learn the grammar, then you learn the conjugations, and then you go from there. If you don't start small, you're not going to go anywhere at all. That's what I like to say, that's what I like to think, and so it's very, very important that you start small. And once you start small, you can start using the little you know to express yourself the best you can, and that kind of ties into point number 3. And bada bing, bada boom, as time goes on, you'll see the difference. Always start small. And number 5, last on our list, is to do something with your knowledge. Because at the end of the day, there has to be a reason why you were learning the language. Sure, you might like the language, but it has to be more than that. You need to want to do something with the language, whether it's get a job, travel, make friends. You need a goal beyond just learning the language. And that's gonna not only help you stay consistent, but it's gonna take you to the real next level. For example, for me, one of my biggest goals with learning Spanish was to travel. Spanish is one of the most spoken languages in the world, and I knew it would be really helpful when I wanted to start traveling, especially because I live in the United States. We're surrounded by Spanish-speaking countries, and I really wanted to go to Spain. And so when I finally did, I was able to take my language skills to the next level, and I was really able to utilize everything I'd learned. It helped me stay consistent, it motivated me to keep on learning, and I got to see the fruits of my labor, because at the end of the day, after you spend so much time and effort learning, you want something that's going to reward you for everything you've done. And so don't forget about that. There's always got to be the light at the end of the tunnel with language learning. Alright guys, that was it. That was all. Those are the 5 polyglot tricks that I've picked up over the past 7 years that have helped me learn all my languages. And it sounds very generic, but try to think about what I've said and try to do it to the best of your ability, and I guarantee you'll see results. So, and of course, if you have any questions or you want my help with any kind of resources, or you want to see any videos relating to the languages I speak, or if you want to see any videos relating to the languages I speak, then put that down in the comments below and I'll be sure to get to it. And so, with that, please like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. It helps me a lot. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Until then, goodbye, do svidaniya, hasta luego, ci vediamo, bye.